Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm delighted to welcome another guest, the mindset soldier, David Smith. Absolute pleasure to have you on my channel, mate.
Really appreciate it as well, mate.
Cool. Well, me and David, just a bit of background, me and David, we actually met through TikTok. So again, the power of social media and meeting like-minded people and then obviously broadening your network, which is awesome. So David, obviously it's in the title there, Mindset Soldier. You've obviously got the military background there. Some great stories that we're going to tap into. And what we're going to start with is the typical, give us that overview of who you are and what you do right now.
So my name's David Smith. I'm a veteran of the Grenadier Guards. I served for just under 10 years, 2 operational tours, and I got an MOD on my last tour. And since leaving the military in 2017 with PTSD, I've really tried to change my attitude towards life and my mindset. And that's why now I kind of push and really help as many people as I can with their mindset.
Yeah, awesome. And if you haven't already, go check out David on TikTok. It's Mindset Soldier. Some great stuff. Obviously, it's a platform we're both spending time on, but it's a great way to get your message out there. And a lot of David's stuff is, again, it's that value that people can relate to. And I think that's really important nowadays, is that we don't look at fluffy stuff that you just think, I can't relate to that. It's the real stuff of life, right? So, David, let's start with your journey. You know, when you were growing up, what were things like? How was your earlier life?
Yeah, when I first started my childhood when I first started I came from a loving home. My mum was Italian, but she was very aggressive as well. So she used to say like I love you, but then hit you at the same time. It was that kind of relationship. My dad was never really around at the time, and my mum kind of left the abusive relationship and took me and one of my siblings away from my stepdad at the time. And her mental health, I think, deteriorated very quickly. She turned into an alcoholic very quickly and was on high medication. The two never went well. And social services got involved. Within about 6 months, me and my sister were took into the care system. Me and my sister, I've got different dads. Her dad took her out the care system and I was just left in the care system by myself. I was only around about 5 years old. And that's where my kind of childhood stopped, really. I was going through halfway houses and hostels, and I was abused as a child, sexually, physically, and mentally, through years, growing up in the care system until I left when I was around about 19, really.
Well, it sounds like you've had more life experiences than the average person walking about on the street. So, I can only imagine what you've been through and where you are now. Is that I'd like to think that also it makes you a stronger person at the end of it, because experiences that you go through, you're always learning and you're realizing this is what I can take from that. So hopefully there are like many lessons there, and from everything you've been through to what you're doing now. The brilliant thing is it's all coming from experience, and so what you're giving out, which is amazing. And again, go check David out on TikTok, is that this is real life stuff, and life, which I always touch on. Whatever you're trying to do is actually pretty tough, especially if you're trying to lean more towards the side of trying to better yourself, trying to achieve things. That takes a lot. So adding on the pressures of everything you've been through to where you are now is absolutely awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your experience in the army, and obviously the medals that you've come by, and talk to us about your experience and how has that also molded you to the person you are today.
My experience to join the military, I always wanted to join the military since I was a kid. I always had that mentality because I never had really anyone around me. My mum and dad were never there. My siblings weren't there. I've got 4 sisters, 1 brother, and I lost my mum at a young age, at 16, when I started to get in contact back with her. She passed away. I went to go to my stepdad, but I became homeless. I was living on the streets for over years in hostels, and I had to try and do something to change my mind. In my mindset, I was homeless. I had nothing, and that's what I attracted. And I was homeless, and I really had to change my mentality. So I worked towards a goal of trying to get into hostels and actually getting a registered address so I could join the military, which I did. When I was 19, I joined the military, and I just never looked back. It completely changed my life, my mindset, because I was seeing how other people perceive life. Six months to 12 months before I joined the military, I was homeless, but then you had guys in the military took life for granted when I was like living out in the woods doing like exercises and stuff. they weren't grateful for having a roof over their head or 3 meals. Like 6 months ago, I went weeks without food. So it's having that gratitude towards life, and it really changed my perception of life.
Yeah, so you really went into it sort of with the appreciation. And like you say, that I heard this on a podcast the other day, and I think this is a really important message, and it kind of hit back with me, was that I think it was KSI and Logan Paul were talking about how much they've achieved in such a short period of time, that they actually struggle to now find satisfaction in big things. And it's so funny, and KSI turned around and said, you know, it amazes me, and I only wish that I could have the same feeling of when people just go out and they just enjoy a walk. Like, I can't have that because we've been hyped up so much. Anything less, or if it's not the next level, isn't enough. So I think, you know, just slowing down, and everything that we're trying to do as entrepreneurs and add value and stuff like this, it's so important to stop and just go, do you know what? Actually, things aren't too bad, and we should probably start enjoying what we can. So amazing lessons there. Talk to us about, because obviously there's an incredible story of bravery that you have behind you there, which made the papers. You know, I think that's worth mentioning about, you know, how incredible that story was, but also it shows the kind of character that you are, you know, to be able to do that. If you could just talk us through a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my military career started in 2009. Out of 100 groups, I got best recruit, which was an amazing for me, from coming homeless to being one of the best soldiers, going through Catterick. And then going through that, I've done 2 operational tours. I was a Lance Corporal, I did my PTI course. I was going to be Recce Commandos. And on my second tour in 2012, it was very kinetic. We're in North Kakale, and we went on something called like a baiting knot. We'd go out and try and attract the Taliban, so they would shoot at us, so we can shoot back at them in the card alpha and stuff. And we took over a compound. Me and the sharpshooter got on top of the compound, and just really trying to withdraw the enemy to get them to shoot us so we can see their locations and stuff. We're up there for about an hour and a half, and nothing happened. Nothing. The atmosphere completely changed. All the locals disappeared. It just didn't seem right. So I called on one of my friends who I went through training with, a really good mate of mine, John, to take over my position and take over John Atwood's position as well. And he literally took over my position and sat down. I came down, and as I've literally took off my body armor and a helmet, sniper hit him straight in the face underneath the chin and came out the top of his head. Everything just went quiet, and my training just kicked in. I had no body armor, helmet on. I got on top of the compound. The other guy that was actually on top of the compound, one of my friends, he got a bit of shell shock, didn't know what was happening, so I grabbed him, got him down, took over, went over to Dawson to see if he was responsive, but I was still getting shot at, so I had to try and give suppressive fire. I actually picked up a machine gun, tried to shoot back, give suppressive fire, had hard cock, it jammed, so I had to throw that down. I picked up my SA-80, that was hard cock, that was jammed. I was like, I'm dead. This is literally me. So I literally had to switch my attention over to John to try and save his life. So I got on top of him trying to look for entry and exit wounds, couldn't find anything until I tilted his head, and that's when the blood started to pour from his mouth and his head. So I got his tongue, pulled his tongue out so he could breathe because he was suffocating, and told the other guys to take over the firefight. Once they took over the firefight and gave me a bit of clarity that I could pull him off the building, I dragged him, pulled him off the building, gave him first aid with the medic, and actually took over the firefight. We won the firefight. He went back to Bastion, and he's actually still alive today, and he's doing amazing.
Yeah, I mean, what an incredible story. I mean, if you haven't, you know, like you can look that up in the paper. I've seen that there. I mean, you must, like you say, what even goes through your head when you're doing that? You know, is it just a case of you just sort of went into automatic mode?
Skills and drills. It's what's embedded into you as a soldier. Day in, day out, I lived and breathed it. I was a soldier since I was a kid, I think, and it just. I was never ever scared on tour. I think a lot of soldiers do say that. I was never scared at tour. I was always scared of coming back. I didn't want to leave that environment because there's a lot of peace in chaos, which I find I'm more at home in a war zone than I am just living on the streets or living in my house now. I don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So how are you dealing with sort of, you know, do you take much from when you've been on tour to now? Is this something that obviously is talked about a lot? You know, I'd say it's talked about more, certainly, you know, people are more open about it now, but is it something that you've sort of controlled now? Is it something that is a daily thing, or is this just a case of you've put it to bed? Or
No, it's been a very tough ride. Coming back off my second tour in 2012, 2013-14 was really bad for me. I went downhill very bad with my mental health, drink, drugs, fighting. I nearly went to prison for 10 years doing other stuff, and I had PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and it killed my career. And I lost my kind of purpose in life. I had no direction no more, and sadly I tried to take my own life twice. I tried to OD and I tried to hang myself. Luckily for myself, I was found and I was sectioned in the mental health act. But it was a very tough time, and trying to get past that was really hard, and I had to come away from the medication and the constant therapy and actually work on myself and my mindset, and actually think about stuff in a positive way instead of negative. Try and think that life's happening for you, not to you. I had to try and turn it around. Everything for the last 30 years of my life was so negative, from abuse, my mum dying, my dad dying, my sister dying, PTSD, trying to kill myself. I was just had that FU moment in my head, was like, that's it. I'm done with that crap. I need to move on and try and change around and help people from my traumas.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, it's incredible what you're doing. And I think, how did you go from, everything you've been through and stuff like this? Some people don't get to the stage where you are now, where you're able to actually sit in a position where you're still offering value to others and helping other people by what you're putting out there. Not everyone gets to that stage. Not everyone has the strength to go, do you know what? It is what it is. It's happened. I need to get my arse in gear now. I'm now going to push forward regardless of what's happened.
Yeah.
Not everyone can get to that stage. How have you been able to do that? Was there a turning point and you just thought, right, it's time to move on now?
No, a lot of people have asked me that actual question. Was there a turning point? Was there a certain time? It's not. It's just progression and discipline. And one of the things I'll always take from the military is something called sea drills. Which is embedded to every soldier, and it stands for courage, discipline, respect, integrity, loyalty, and selfless commitment. And I really had to have gratitude of living. I had to wake up with purpose, because I always used to wake up negative. If I can control the first 10 minutes of my day, the rest 24 hours really don't matter, because I've gained that.
Yeah, and how important, I think this is a good sort of touching point, is obviously you keep in good shape as well. For me, that. Yeah. That's a really important part of routine, structure, discipline, is actually staying physically in shape, and it's good for your mental health. How important has that been in your life, is to keep that structure and routine of staying fit? It's
the one thing that's never left me in my life. People have come into my life and left me, and I think training has saved my life sometimes, because when I was going through some of my darkest times where I was nearly sectioned, I did a bodybuilding comp to raise awareness for mental health. So getting up every morning, training 2-3 times a day kept me alive. And it's some endorphins, just to get rid of that cortisone levels in your body. It's so important to do something for your mind, soul and body every day.
Yeah. I listened to something the other day from 50 Cent actually, and I thought, God, to be in that position. But he turned around, and it kind of reminds me of you a little bit. They turned around and said, how have you dealt with things and how have you been able to push forward? And he said, I've never run from anything, because who am I going to run to? He said, if I'm going to run home, who am I running home to? Me. So he said, I've just had to face everything and keep moving forward, because, I've got no one to turn around and sort of moan about, or, go, I'm not happy with this. It's a case of, it is what it is, and I have to deal with it and move forward. And that kind of reminds me that you're just, you're someone who's very strong now, who can just go, okay, that's happened, got to move on, got to progress, which is kind of ties in nicely, is, perhaps some tips and advice to those listening, for someone that's come through so much and absolutely powering through, is, what would you say to someone if they're hitting that point? Because I think a lot of people are hitting this point where they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm sick of life. I can't stand it. And perhaps perspective hasn't yet kicked them in the face. What would you say to people who are in that, I wouldn't say midlife crisis, because it could be any age, but are at a point in their life where they're so just fed up because they have no idea what to do?
It's hard to find purpose in life. I do struggle. I'm still on my journey to find what I need to do in life. And I think my calling is helping people, because I really believe that sometimes in life, what we go through isn't for us. We're just the strongest vessel to take that strength and that trauma on to help other people. And the biggest life lesson I've learned is drop your ego. As soon as you drop your ego, you can allow help, not just that, you can move forward.
Absolutely. No, I really agree with that. That's a really important point. I think I like what you just said, in the things that we go through isn't necessarily for us. Is to perhaps mould us where we could then help someone else and teach them about what we've been through and stuff like that. I think something that is quite what I like about you already is that it's a case of accepting what has been, and then with the whole purpose thing, what you touch on there, I think this is really important, is that I think when it comes to trying to find a purpose, do you not think we're in a world where, when we look around, especially on social media, it looks like everyone's just doing extremely well. And that puts this underlying pressure to think that we should have it figured out at a certain age. It always has to be an age where we should have had this and we should have had that. And then we do the whole thing, what you've just mentioned, is that I need to have a purpose. Do you not think that actually life is so much... I think it's a little bit deeper than that, is that maybe there isn't a purpose. It's just... we just have to accept that it's just a journey, and what happens, happens.
100%. This life is very short, very, very short. And you have to kind of cram in as many good memories as you can and hold on to them and let go of the downs when you're down there. Just let them go. I know it's easier said than done. That's one of my worst. Whenever anyone says that to me, I hate it when they say it's easier said than done. Everything in life is easier said than done, but we have the choice to choose. And that's the thing that separates us from the animals and humans. A tree is always going to be a tree. A lion's always going to be a lion, but we have the skills to choose what we want to do. I can quit my job now and be someone else tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? But social media, like you say, I love it and hate it. I love it because I just do my own content. I don't care about anyone else's, but there's a lot of people these days that are having midlife crisis at 20 years old.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to be someone they're not. If you can actually focus on you and what you bring into this world, you will succeed. Stop worrying about your friend down the road that's got a car and finance it. It's up to his eyeballs in debt. Don't be that person.
It's about being content, isn't it? I think people, when you can become content and you can go, right, I'm happy with who I am where I am, I'm actually quite satisfied. And I'm going to try, do you know, something I think that really separates people and allows them to move on and progress in life is actually helping other people. Like, I always fall back on this because I have some really good close friends of mine who have done very well successfully, and anytime you get on just general chit chat, is that they talk, and believe it or not, and a lot of people would think, oh my god, never would have thought that, but a lot of people who have done very well financially, they're not bothered about the money at all. They normally have a brilliant backstory. I'm not talking about silver spoon people here, I'm eliminating them. I'm talking about people who have come from nothing but had a very big why to become financially free. It then all becomes about helping people. And I don't know if you've seen this on a TikTok, but like when Pitbull, someone asked him something about, does money make you happy? Yeah. And he said it does, but when you give it away. And stuff like that. And that's the same for like sharing knowledge and value is helping other people, because you get so much from it. So I think there's some awesome points. There's so much learning here for people. So as we sort of come to a close, David, is there anything that you could recommend? Is there a book you're reading at the moment? Is there a video that you've watched, or anything that you could suggest to someone else to go out and do or read or watch that was impactful to you?
At any time in life, if anything happens to you, whether you think there's going to be trauma or lessons, hit it straight on, because that's the only way you're going to learn in life. Like all the lessons I've learned in life, it's took me 30 years to actually say, but I've learned from that and moved forward. But there's two great books, which is David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. That book is just insane. Like, it's an amazing book. I don't know if you've read it, but it is.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, brilliant book.
It's a great book. And Foxy, Life Under Fire, another great book. That guy is just an inspiration to me, like what he's come through and how open he is about mental health and moving forward. He's an alpha male, but he still speaks about his feelings. So he's put that narrative right down. Yeah.
No, there's two awesome recommendations. I mean, the Can't Hurt Me, I remember listening to that at the beginning, and that was quite tough because, especially, you know, from having my son and stuff like that, listening to what he went through and stuff like that, you know, it's tough, and that's a lot of reality, and a lot of people, again, don't speak about that, but people being able to listen and relate and then move forward is awesome. So I can't thank you enough for coming on, David. We're going to push this out there, and there's going to be loads of value and learning for people. And if people do want to reach out, connect with you and speak with yourself, where can they go?
They can go to my TikTok, my Instagram, Mindset Soldier. And if you're struggling with whatever mindset or purpose, just reach out to me. I will try and help you as much as I can. I don't want anything for it. All I want you to do is just to help other people.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David. And for everyone that has watched so far, I hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you all very soon.